Hello, welcome to Life Stories. I'm Justine, your host. DEUS Triatimba was born fully sighted, but at 7 years old, he became blind as a result of measles. DEUS's parents accepted him and took him to different schools where children that are blind can get an education. Today, DEUS is a bank manager with Standard Chartered Bank in charge of inclusion and diversity at national level. This is a story of a man who has made it in a world where sight is a must. I'm in Kabale district and I'm going to go through these hills and head to his country home where we are going to meet him and his parents. Come with me.
Yeah. Hello. Fine, how are you? You're very welcome.
Thank you, DEUS. Some say eyes are the windows to one's soul, but DEUS Triatimba's soul sees life in every literal sense of the word, despite being blind. DEUS was born with sight, but due to an illness, his life changed forever. DEUS's story is a message of the brightest light shining in the darkest of shadows. I'm in Bojero village, Rwanda County, Kabale district. We're in the country home of Mr. DEUS Triatimba. He's joined us on the show and we hear his story. How are you, DEUS?
I'm fine, Justin.
How is Kabale?
Kabale is cold.
It is.
Yeah, it's cold. And you are very welcome to,
Thank you.
to my home
Village.
You.
Thank you, please.
Yes.
When did you become blind and what was the cause?
I became blind at the age of something like 7-8 years. And it was basically due to measles. But otherwise I was born sighted with other fellow family members.
What seemed like an illness that would heal resulted into a permanent fright for DEUS and his family. A happy home in the quiet hills of Kabale district turned into a hub of tension and confusion. So what was your parents' reaction when they realized that you're going to be blind forever?
First, it was mixed feelings, but largely they also didn't hope that I would be a useful person. Because usually when you become blind, people associate sight with so many things, with success. They know that for you to be successful, you must be able to see things. And like any other person, of course they were very frustrated. According to Google statistics, globally about 285 million people are blind or vision impaired. When one is physically blind, society will declare them blind in every aspect and of no value. So DEUS, how was life growing up as a person that cannot see? Definitely life especially when the village was very challenging. Because I remember when I was a child, there were so many challenges. Like, when you're in the village and you become blind, people start associating this with so many bad things. They say that probably either the parents could have misbehaved. Maybe, I think by our time, they used to say, in Chigezi, or Kabale in particular, they were in the past, there was this belief that when someone gets a disability, probably it's due to the fact that the parents have displeased the ancestral spirits. If the child cries, they say, no, if you don't stop crying, we'll call so-and-so's blind child to eat you. You can imagine how irritating it was. So it was full of challenges, but yeah, thank God I've maneuvered through. Yes. DEUS's parents did not only have to deal with their child's misfortune, but also the scorn from relatives, neighbors, and society. They got so much disturbed because being the laughter in the village, everyone was laughing at them. And these parents perhaps did something wrong. How comes it is their family? On the whole village, how comes? Why not other families? So they also went through that trauma, that stigma. But I think with time, they have been able to recover from that stigma.
DEUS held onto his mother's clothes to find his way. His parents were determined to create a bright future for their son. When did you start going to school after you lost your sight?
I must say this started in 1988, second term. That's when I started going to school fully. And how that happened, one day I was, my mother wanted to leave me at home. And I refused. I said, but she wanted to visit my late auntie. Then she's like, I got to know about it, that she was going to visit the late auntie. So I was like, but now, how can I stay at home and I miss visiting the auntie? So she was like, no, but you know, going with you is a bit troublesome because the only way, by then we didn't even have the walking sticks. It was just holding on her cloth. So I stubbornly refused and hung on to her cloth. We reached a point and someone noticed that I couldn't see because I was holding my mother's cloth. Then she didn't come to us that very moment. But when our return journey, we again passed by the same spot, and the same person noticed that I was blind. So she came running, said, but she talked to my mom, said, but now I think your child doesn't see. Have we ever thought of taking him to a school for blind people where he can learn how to read and write? That's how the conversation started. And I did not start immediately, but my late aunt kept on coming, convincing me that, you know what, please go to school. That woman also had a blind child who was going to school. Yeah, and that is the one I told you is Nathan Jack, my colleague here. Yeah, the mother is the one who spotted me, and then from there, that's how I started now the discussions to go to school. Yes. And shortly after that, I think it took us like a month or two, and finally we had to start to embark on the journey to school.
So where was this school?
This school, fortunately, was here. It's here in Kawale, Kawale district. It's called Hombe High School, Junior.
It's a school for blind people?
No, it's not a school for blind people. It's just an ordinary school, but with an annex. An annex, I should say, is sort of an attachment, a component, a small component, to get a small section to cater for the needs of blind people. But otherwise, it's just an ordinary school.
That's very good.
I recall one thing, that when you are going to school, we walked. If you can imagine, from here to Kawale town is something like 23 or 25 kilometers. So we walked all this journey on foot from here to the school, because my mother and my friend's mom, they wanted to be sure that at least we can make it there. And there was no transport. The reason we walked is not that we wanted to really walk, but there was no transport for both me and my parent. So we chose to really walk. Yes.
So how did you go to school every morning?
Well,
because you're saying you went with a friend of yours,
yes,
who also is blind.
Yes. No, we were being assisted by our mothers. We actually worked in the company of our mothers. Yeah, my mother was there, and
that was
and
good.
his
For
mother.
all the time you were there.
Yes, we had to walk. Actually, we spent two days because we walked from here to a certain point called Kakole. Then it got dark. Something like 7 p.m. We realized that we couldn't proceed because that it was not safe for us to move at night. So we chose to seek for a night, to spend a night in someone's home. So we had to ask a volunteer to accommodate us for the night. So fortunately we got a good Samaritan, and we spent the night there. Then the next morning at 6, we again set off to continue to school. And we made it to school by around 10 a.m. the next day. Yeah, so that is how challenging it was.
So when you went to school, were you in boarding school?
Yes, I found it was a boarding school. So I had to be there for the whole term. And when the trouble could probably come at the end of the term, when the term has ended, probably the parents don't know that the term has ended. So either you are picked past 2 days or 3 days. So when the rest of the children have already gone back. Yeah. So we had to wait in pain, but what to do? Just keep there and until they pick you. Because by then as a child I didn't know, I didn't even have the confidence to travel back until when I made it secondary. Yes.
So you went to secondary in the same school?
Yes, secondary, yeah, same school, Hombe High School, secondary, yeah.
Up to what level?
Up to Form 4. So when it came to Form 4, it was, of course, the school said, no, we cannot take you on for A level. So now, the only option was to go to another school called Igang SS. That is in Busoga, that is in Iganga district, that is Busoga region. There were a number of issues. There were even allegations that blind people slow the completion of the syllabus. And then we're asking ourselves, how do I slow the completion of the syllabus? I'm not a teacher, I'm a student in class. But someone is saying that because there's a blind person in class, that the teacher is moving slowly. I mean, you know, the rate at which they should be able to complete the syllabuses. They know this term should cover this number of topics. So there were all those allegations.
You're still watching Life Stories. Thank you for being a part of the show. Today we have our special guest, DEUS, a blind bank manager. When we come back on Life Stories,
tukashaba mukama ruhanga n'ubu niwe tukashabaga